Hey, Battle Bill here with another video, and today we're going to get into some more Great League Go Battle League battles. So today we're actually going to be looking at a set of 5 from a friend of mine, a subscriber, that he submitted the battles and he told me to react to them live, so that's what we're going to do. I'm looking over his team right now, and this team consists of a BASTIODON-LED, Whiscash, and Frostlast in the back. So we got a little bit of Frostlast spice here, which should make for a very interesting team. I'm going to try my best to give whatever commentary that I can, but again, I'm live reacting to it just as you guys are watching it. So we're going to see how these battles play out, and we're going to see some strengths and weaknesses of this team in case you guys want to try it. These are actually some rank 5 battles. His first battle's up against Alvin Liu, and he's got a Bastiodon on Ferrothorn lead. So, you know about my double mud boys, and Ferrothorn stresses me out. So looking at this matchup, it's a very unique one. At least this is not one that I've really played through. Bastiodon does have access to Flamethrower, which would be double super effective to the Ferrothorn, whereas Ferrothorn is typically running Power Whip, which you're about to see, which is dealing neutral damage to the Bastiodon, and either Flash Cannon or Thunder. I think all of those moves would actually deal neutral damage to Bastiodon. But right now, right now Antonio is going for a Flamethrower here. If this goes unshielded, it's going to do a bunch of damage. His opponent decides to shield. Makes sense, even though Bastiodon doesn't get the stab on Flamethrower. Considering that Ferrothorn is going to take double super effective damage from it, I wouldn't be surprised if it got it either super low or completely one-shot it. So another Power Whip gets through. I'm honestly assuming that Bastiodon would win out the one shield situation here, just because he can shield this one if he wants, and then he can get to another Flamethrower, and if his opponent decides not to shield, that would most likely take the Ferrothorn out. This seems to be a bit of a slow matchup. His opponent swaps and brings in a Stunfisk, and I think the play here would have been to immediately swap to Whiscash. He did hesitate for a second. He was probably trying to figure out which Pokemon he'd rather bring in here. Frostlast would deal super effective damage to the Stunfisk, but at the same time, Frostlast is Glacier, whereas Whiscash will tank the Stunfisk's Mud Bombs and Discharges a lot better. So his opponent's getting to another charge move here. This is definitely going to be another Mud Bomb. He decides not to shield it. You can see that this Stunfisk is going to need a bunch of Mud Bombs just to really apply pressure to the Whiscash, whereas Whiscash's Mud Bombs are going to deal super effective damage because of Stunfisk's electric typing. So now his opponent decided to shield. If I were him, it looks like he's going for another Mud Bomb. I think I honestly would have just built up to the Blizzard, because that would have also dealt super effective damage, and then it wouldn't have taken Stunfisk out. It would have got it really low, and then he could have essentially farmed it up. Whereas now he's going to either have to take another Mud Bomb, or he's going to have to use his last shield. I think I'd use my last shield just to really get some extra energy. He decides not to, which I think will work either way, and he goes for a swap. Interesting. He must have been keeping track of the switch timer, because that was a crazy play. Honestly, I don't know where that Clefable just came from. That was wild, and he brought in the Steel type, so that honestly couldn't have worked out any better. The Clefable's going to have a pretty hard time charming this Bastiodon down because of the fact that it's a Steel type and it resists, so he's able to get to 2 charge moves here. I wonder why when he came in the first time, he went for the Flamethrower. I think both of those moves would have been no, I guess Flamethrower would have been neutral against Stunfisk, right? Maybe. I don't know. But regardless, he ends up taking out the Clefable, and that works out really well. Unfortunately, the Stunfisk comes back in and is able to farm down the Bastiodon, and now he's got to make a decision here. He still has a shield, which is a positive. He could bring in Frostlast and try to attempt to farm down, and looks like that's what he's going to do, because again, these Powder Snows are super effective. I'm pretty confident that Frostlast could tank one of these. And what was the other Pokemon? Ferrothorn, so that means the Ferrothorn has access to either Power Whip, which would be... Does Ice resist it? I know Ice is super effective against Grass, but does Ice resist Grass? I don't know if the reverse works. But either way, Ferrothorn, if it's running Flash Cannon, would deal super effective damage with that, so gotta be a little cautious. But either way, he is coming to the farm down, which I don't blame him. His opponent swaps, and he goes for the immediate Avalanche right away. Either move would have gotten Stab. I need to do more research to tell you which one of them would have been more energy efficient. I'm pretty confident that Avalanche would have been. He goes for the swap, brings in his Whiscash. Honestly, I don't even know if swapping in like that and throwing the Mud Bomb was the play. I know the Ferrothorn was probably close to its charge move, but he could have attempted a farm down considering it's literally at 1 HP, but he seems to have this match wrapped up regardless. Stunfisk comes in, has no health. Even if like the Ferrothorn got to a Power Whip and took out the Whiscash, the Frostlast would have been able to farm it down and then take care of the Stunfisk also. So that's the first match. That was a crazy one. That swap from Bastiodon onto Clefable just out of nowhere completely just caught me off guard. Alright, getting into game number 2. Just going to wait for this to load. Just going up against Taisei. and missed all the numbers. Got the Bastiodon on Shadow Victory Bell lead. Interesting. So I know that I'm pretty sure Bastiodon takes neutral damage from these Razor Leafs. These smackdowns are really starting to tear into the Victory Bell because it's its lower defense. So it's really just looking like Bastiodon's going to win out this matchup, even though, again, Victory Bell has the amp up in attack stat because of it being a Shadow. The Victory Bell actually beats the Bastiodon to a charge move. That's fascinating. So he threw the Leaf Blade, he shielded it. I don't blame him. Honestly, I don't even know if you really want to throw the Flamethrower here. I think at that point, considering... I don't know, that was close. I would have committed to the farm down, I think. But regardless, it gets the shield, so maybe the Victory Bell is close to another Leaf Blade. They go for the swap, brings in his Frost Blast, and that gets met by an Azumarill. Interesting. It's a very interesting swap. It's just a very interesting play. So the Azumarill's getting to its charge move. It might be baiting, might be going for the Ice Beam, might be going for the Hydro Pump. Ends up baiting with an Ice Beam that's dealing not very effective damage because Ice is resisting Ice. And his opponent has a shield, and he needs this Shadow Ball to essentially land on the Azumarill. So I'm guessing he's just not taking any chances. That's a weird way to swipe your Ghost type attacks. But anyhow, the Shadow Ball gets through, which is big, and he's going for another one before his opponent can get off another charge move. So, yo, he swipes his Ghost type attacks so odd. I don't know. That was just so smooth, like so consistent. Either way, his opponent hasn't gotten off a charge. What is going on there? I guess he was trying to go for the Hydro Pump, but that didn't make any sense. He should have at least been another Ice Beam, so I have no idea what just happened there. His opponent has a Fortress in the back. Interesting. So now he's going for another Shadow Ball. Somebody correct me. Would Avalanche do neutral damage to Fortress because it's Bug and Steel typing? Ice super effective against Bug. I know that Steel resists Ice, but anyhow, whatever. Correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong. He brings in a Whiscash. This is definitely going to do neutral damage because I know that Bug resists Grounds, but then again, Ground would deal super effective damage to the Steel typing. He definitely wants this Whiscash on the Fortress because he does not want that Victory Bell to meet his Whiscash, because then that would be bye-bye Whiscash, because it would take probably about 3 Razor Leafs just to shred through it. Either way, his opponent landed a Sand Tomb, which was interesting, so it'd probably take like 2 Razor Leafs to shred through this Whiscash, and I'm surprised that his opponent doesn't try to sneak in the Victory Bell to try and like catch the Whiscash off guard. I'm assuming that's why he's overcharging and that's why he's trying to be on the defensive. Another Sand Tomb lands there. He goes for the Mud Bomb. His opponent is still staying in this, which I'm still confused about, to be honest. But he's landed another Mud Bomb. That gets the Fortress really low, and they both go for the swap at the same time. So that worked out perfectly. So his Whiscash cleared the debuffs, avoided getting shredded by even a single Razor Leaf, and then the Bastiodon was able to smack down the Victory Bell completely. And now he's got to a Flamethrower, and this is going to take out the Fortress' remaining health. Why are you undercharging it? It's not making a difference. But either way, I'm pretty sure he probably could, I mean, he had a whole shield left. He probably could just even committed to the smackdown, farm down. But there we go. He's off to a 2-0 set. And that was another interesting match. Seeing Fortress was fascinating. I'm assuming that was a single move Fortress because it only went for the Sand Tombs. And I'm also assuming that was probably a single move Azumarill, because it only went for an Ice Beam, and then when it should have had enough energy for probably another Ice Beam or even a Hydro Pump, he didn't go for it. That was very fascinating. But anyhow, let's get into the third match. We got a Bastiodon on Registeel lead. So this is definitely not a positive matchup for the Bastiodon because Registeel has access to Focus Blast, which is going to essentially be double super effective, yeah, because of the Rock and the Steel typing. And then on top of that, yes, Bastiodon has access to Flamethrower, and that would be super effective against Registeel's Steel typing. Bastiodon gets no stab on it, so really that Flamethrower doesn't hurt that much. And on top of it, Registeel gets to these charge moves a lot quicker. As you can see, he shielded that first Focus Blast. Because Registeel has access to that lock-on, it's going to essentially beat this Bastiodon in this matchup. He does have a counter in the back for this Registeel in the form of Whiscash, and even Frostlass could deal some decent damage to it if it could land a Shadow Ball, because that would be neutral. You definitely don't want to throw an Avalanche at it. He goes for the swap, and he ends up catching what is probably going to be another Focus Blast. I doubt the Registeel tries to bait. Yeah, so this will be resisted because Ghost double resist fighting, but then the fighting type move is super effective against the Ice typing of Frostlass, so that makes it, what, single resisted instead of double resisted? Either way, the Registeel swaps out, he brings in the Azumarill, and he needs to land these Shadow Balls. The Avalanches would be resisted by the Azumarill. His opponent doesn't shield again. It's interesting how none of these Azumarills, between last match and this match, are shielding Shadow Balls. He's not even trying the bait, he's just going straight for them. He beats the Azumarill to another charge move. Am I losing my mind? I don't understand how Unless the Azumarill's overfarming, which is very possible. He's definitely got a shield here. He doesn't shield here. They see him P-tied. This is very interesting. I let it through. That makes sense. It's going to be a play rough. That'll definitely take out the Frostlass. Even an Ice Beam would have gotten it super low, and then the Azumarill could have essentially bubbled down, and he would have needed another charge move to beat the Azumarill because he can't Powder Snow it down since Azumarill would resist that. He's bringing in Bastiodon to deal with the Azumarill's remaining health. Hopefully the Azumarill can't get to another charge move. It doesn't. That works out nicely. Kind of saves some extra health on the Bastiodon, but the Registeel is coming back in, and he really needs his Whiscash to land on it. He also needs to kind of hope that whatever he has in the back is going to be, whatever his opponent has in the back is going to be weak to Whiscash too. So he gets the last shield, which is, I guess, makes sense. Flamethrower still is super effective. It wouldn't have taken out the Registeel. And the last Pokemon is Altaria. So now his opponent definitely wishes he had that shield back, because this Blizzard, even though there's no stab on it, is going to one-shot this Altaria because it's a dragon and a flying type, and it's double super effective, and Blizzard's a big move. Boom. By Altaria. That's a solid move. This is a very meta team he's going up against, and he lost lead. He had Bastiodon on a Registeel lead. This was a super meta team he's up against. It was a Registeel, Azumarill, and Altaria. I do think that it was a little bit of some, his opponent decides to quit because the Whiscash is just going to slaughter the Registeel at this point, but I think that shield the Registeel used on the Bastiodon's Flamethrower was a big mistake because of the fact, again, back to what I was saying, Bastiodon doesn't get stabbed, and then Registeel is pretty tanky. The Flamethrower would only do maybe about 50%. It definitely wouldn't have taken out the Registeel at that health. But I guess you don't know what the other Pokemon is, so you don't want to take any chances there. You want to make sure you're keeping your important Registeel alive. So I understand the logic. Alright, getting into this fourth match. Antonio's going up against Floof. And looking at this team, honestly, there really aren't too many obvious weaknesses that stand out to me. So he's got a Bastiodon and a Azumarill lead. I feel like, if anything, Azumarill might be one Pokemon that gives this team a bit of a hard time, because nothing he has in this team hard counters it. And if the Azumarill lands a Hydro Pump here, the Azumarill wins this matchup. If it doesn't land it, then it loses this matchup. His opponent goes for the bait. He calls that bluff really well. Ends up being an Ice Beam, which is working out real nice for him. So now all he has to do is continue to smack down this Azumarill, throw a Stone Edge, and honestly, even if he baits again and he shields it, I think the Bastiodon can win this matchup. I think. Again, I don't run all the sims, I apologize. Sometimes I wish I had more value to offer in that regard. As much as I'm a math guy, it's just, I learn all my matchups from seeing them being played out. So either this is another single move to Azumarill, which is very possible, or this Azumarill is just really trying to bait this Bastiodon and it is not working. So Antonio goes for another Stone Edge here. This would definitely take out the Azumarill if he doesn't shield. If he does shield, he should be able to just smack it down. He does shield it, and his opponent will get to another Ice Beam here. I would definitely shield this, and then just commit to the farm down or smack down, farm down, smack down, farm down on this Azumarill, and then hopefully whatever your loaded energy is, you're able to get to another Stone Edge or Flamethrower, depending on whatever comes out. So you got an Alolan Raichu coming in here, which, oh, that seemed like an overtap. How did he not get to that charge move? Am I crazy? Well, now he brings in a Whiscash, which, yeah, is a good counter for Alolan Raichu, only if it doesn't have Grass Knot. And I know this situation all too well. Alolan Raichu definitely scares my team too, and I pray that they're not running Grass Knot. This one is. He had a nice shield there. Now he needs to hope that he can essentially get to 2 Mud Bombs before this Alolan Raichu can get to another Grass Knot. But it's not very likely because his Bastiodon got farmed down. So this will definitely get the last shield. And the next one would take it out if he could win the race. He decides not to take any chances and swaps, which didn't catch a charge move, but his opponent's counter to his Frostlass is an Altaria. Oh, this is GG. This is over now. All the Frostlass need to do is get to 1 Avalanche. It's going to take out the Altaria, similar to the Whiscash taking out the Altaria with a Blizzard. And this at least gets stabbed from the Frostlass being an Ice type. And now, yes, he will have to eat whatever this Alolan Raichu's charge move is, but whatever it is will most likely take out the Frostlass, even though it's a Thunder Punch. I didn't. Okay. Never mind, but he still got to the Avalanche, because even if that didn't happen, I thought Frostlass was Glacier, Frostlass, Glass. But anyhow, I thought it was Glacier, so it would have gotten taken out, and then he would have just gotten to the Mud Bomb, and that would have finished off the Alolan Raichu in this match. But yeah, this is a pretty impressive team that he's got going on here. Running a Bastiodon lead kind of stresses me out. I wonder if taking this team and using a Registeel lead would make it a little bit better or a little bit worse. Honestly, I don't know how that would affect it. But Bastiodon is definitely a harder counter for... I mean, he's got some super hard counters for, like, Altaria. He's got both Bastiodon and Froslass on this team that would counter the heck out of an Altaria. Now, the Azumarill matchup, he doesn't have any hard counters for it, but we saw how it just played out in that last match. And then if he has to go up against a Registeel, he has a Whiscash that can deal a ton of damage to Registeels. And then both Bastiodon and Froslass can deal damage to it based on their certain charge moves they have. And then he catches a great lead here at I know I'm great at speaking English, we know this already. But he caught a great lead, the opponent swapped out, brought in a Stunfisk, and he counters with a Whiscash. So this game is already looking good. I wonder how, I mean, obviously, why did that just throw a Discharge? That Whiscash was in for at least 1 or 2 quick moves. Why did he throw Discharge? But maybe his opponent thought that the Whiscash was just a pure water type. That is a very unfortunate mistake to make. You definitely want to throw the Mud Bomb if you're a Stunfisk to try and deal some sort of neutral damage. Because Whiscash is ground, it double resists electric type moves. And even though it has that water typing, because of the double resistance, it's only single resisted, the Discharge. So his opponent must have a single moved Stunfisk here because it's only throwing Discharge. And that's definitely going to set his opponent even further back than it already is, even though Stunfisk is super spammy and he's throwing a bunch of them. So it's very unfortunate that he's stuck throwing Discharges instead of throwing a Mud Bomb. I hope his opponent ends up getting enough Stardust and Candy to buy that Stunfisk a second move, because it would definitely allow it to have a lot more success in Go Battle League if it had that Mud Bomb on it. But regardless, he's going for his own Mud Bomb. That definitely takes out the Stunfisk, and keeping his Whiscash's health pretty low was really smart, because in case he had a hard counter for it, it can't farm up too much energy on that Whiscash's remaining health. Because honestly, I expected the Altaria to come back in. It didn't come back in. A Hypno came in, and now he's just going to spam as many Mud Bombs on it as possible. Honestly, his opponent should have just came back in with the Altaria to farm it down, and then let the Bastiodon essentially tear it down, and then hope that your Hypno can take out the Bastiodon and whatever Antonio's third Pokemon is, which is Froslass. So in this situation, I mean, he's got 2 super hard counters to the Altaria, and both of these Pokemon will deal with this Hypno pretty well, unless it's running Fire Punch, which I highly doubt. It's running Fire Punch. I highly doubt it's running Fire Punch. The first thing that comes is a Fire Punch, so that worked out for his opponent pretty well. But now you can just bring in Bastiodon, which is going to end up dealing with this Hypno pretty well, because I highly doubt it's running Focus Blast. He throws another Fire Punch, and that, you saw, does very minimal neutral damage to the Hypno. He's overcharging here, because honestly, he might not even need any charge moves to win this match, but this Hypno is really over-farming at this point, at least it feels like it. So I would do exactly what he's doing. Use the shield, because you're going to take out the Hypno, and it ends up being a Shadow Ball, which would have done a small chunk to Bastiodon, but it wouldn't have done enough to take it out. And now, yes, his opponent has 2 shields, but his opponent has an Altaria up against 2 of its hardest counters, which are both Bastiodon and Froslass. I'm pretty sure he's at like 100 energy with this Bastiodon at this point, and I guess his logic is might as well just completely commit to the farm down, but I think I would throw both of these Stone Edges just to get rid of both of the shields, and then the Froslass can come in and finish off the Altaria with an Avalanche. But he's really committing hard to this farm down. Like, he's committing super hard. He's like over 100 energy. I mean, it's gonna work. It's gonna work. These Sky Attacks are doing nothing to the Bastiodon. He's got the Smackdowns. When the Froslass comes in with the Powder Snow, that would wipe out the Altaria. He doesn't even need the Froslass. The Bastiodon ends up taking out the Altaria, and it wins in the match, and he has a solid 5-0 set with his team. So we're gonna have to think about this one, and we're gonna have to give this one a solid rating. But I love immediately eating my words. I highly doubt this Hypno's got a Fire Punch. Bam. But either way, that was a great set. I find this team very interesting. I might need to give it a try. I didn't see any obvious weaknesses. Now, I'm not always the best judge of character when it comes to this stuff. I get my typings wrong all the time. I don't know everything. I can't stress that enough. I just watch and I play this game as much as possible, and I enjoy it as much as I can. But let's talk about this team. So, he's got the Bastiodon lead and the Whiscash and Froslass in the back. And he didn't seem to run into any hard counters. He did seem to run into some opponents that might not have had 2nd or 3rd moves. These were rank 5 battles, and he's a little behind because he doesn't always do his battles. So the opponents he may have run into may have lacked the resources that could have potentially helped them do better in some of these matches. But I think that only really affected 2 of the matches, and I think he was going to win those 2 regardless of whatever his opponents, if they had the 3rd move or not. So looking at this at first glance, I would have said maybe Victory Bell, could give this team a hard time because the Razor Leafs would tear Whiscash for sure. And even though Frostlass is ice, it's still gonna take a lot of damage from Razor Leaf because of how glassy Frostlass is. So maybe like Victory Bell would be a problem. I wouldn't say Tropius because Bastiodon would hard counter Tropius, and then Tropius is also flying, so it would take double super effective from the Frostlass in the back. He's got 2 answers for Altaria. He's got 1 big answer on Whiscash for like Registeel. Azumarill is probably the toughest thing he needs to go up against that I can think of meta-wise, just based on the fact that he doesn't have a hard counter for Azumarill. But let's think of some other. I'm trying to think of like all the meta Pokemon that I could like stack up against his team. What else is meta? I mean, I feel like maybe a fighter would give him a bit of a problem, especially like a fighting lead, because Bastiodon would lose that matchup. And then a fighter could deal solid damage to Whiscash, whereas Frostlass would still resist it, single resist it because of its ghost typing. Because don't forget, the ice typing still takes super effective from fighting. But Sableye would be super effective. Umbreon might give this team a bit of a hard time. It would hard counter the Frostlass in the back, and then neither Whiscash or Bastiodon will deal super effective damage against it. So maybe if he ran into a team that consisted of Azumarill and Umbreon, he might struggle a tiny bit, but there are no, like, obvious weaknesses. Like, I can't think of anything that's like, yeah, you can't play against this Pokemon. Like, for my double Mudboy team, if I run into a Ferrothorn with Thunder, I cannot play against that Pokemon. And I would also struggle against something like Alolan Raichu because it has access to that Grass Knot on top of the fact that it has electric moves for the Skarmory. So, honestly, I might have to give this team... I haven't given out a 10 yet. This is pretty close to it. But again, these are rank 5 battles. That has to be taken into consideration. It does... Yeah, that has to be taken into consideration. We didn't see the biggest variety of mons I could have went against. There was only 1 set. So I'm going to give this a 9. And if you disagree with me, again, I don't know everything. So what does my opinion matter? Honestly, you came here to watch the video. I appreciate the heck out of that. But like... I don't really know anything. I didn't certify myself in this Pokemon stuff. So please, if you catch any obvious weaknesses, let me know in the comment section because I'm totally missing it. But I think after watching that set that it's a 9 out of 10 team. And I might need to give this team a try. But I have a few other subscriber teams that have been recommended to me, so I want to try out those. I still want to put out more Mudboy videos. I'm still sitting in the top 500 somewhere with my team right now. And I just obviously got a lot going on. So I'll try and find at least 1 set where I can try this team out, because I know the algorithm is going to give us a phone call at some point, whether he's going to keep on using this team or if I decide to use it, the algorithm's going to call one of us and be like, this hard counters your team. And when that happens, I'll let you guys know. But other than that, don't forget to leave subscriber team recommendations in the comment section for me to try out. These weren't my battles, this was my friend Antonio's. Let me know what you think of this team. If you want me to shoutcast your team, let me know. Hit me up on the YouTube comments, find me on Twitter, use the @s right below me. If you can find me on Discord, anywhere, whatever. Let me know if you want me to go over your team, if you think you have a really solid team, you put together a dope set, because I would love to shoutcast it. Other than that, we're super close to 1,000 subscribers. I'm like, what, 10 subscribers away? Do I want to do a giveaway? Maybe? I gotta think about it. But anyhow, I'll see you guys in the next video.